Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Omerta City of Gangsters? This is a game by the guys that brought you Tropico and Imperium Romanum. Tropico 3 and 4, by the way, not the originals. I believe the way you pronounce the name, I'm probably horribly wrong here, is Haemimont. It's published by Calypso, who have brought you numerous strategy games over the last few years, some of which were pretty good, some of which were not. Omerta is, as you might imagine, a strategy game about gangsters and legal operations during the Prohibition era. So it's mostly about beer and liquor, the sales of such things, as well as enforcement via the means of baseball bats, Tommy guns, and so on and so forth. I'll have a quick look at the options menu before we go in. So it is a strategy game, so a lot of the usual stuff that you need doesn't really apply, but it does otherwise have a fairly pleasing selection of options available to customize your experience. For me, it runs at maximum speed, maximum detail, as you would expect, but it may not necessarily on other people's machines. There is a list of the hotkeys here. As you can see, I've just accidentally unbound one of them. I have to assume it was probably that. No, I guess it wasn't. Oh well. So you can rebind the keys. Always nice to see. You don't really need them because everything is powered through the actual interface itself, so you don't really need the hotkeys at all, but it's nice to have that option nonetheless. So it does have a sandbox mode as well as multiplayer. I attest I have not had the chance to play this because I haven't actually been able to find any matches. We could try and have a quick look at it and see if there's anything running. I am not TotalBiscuit. Okay. Yeah, there's like... Well, yes, there we go. There's like 7 people in the chat room and 6 people that I would like to talk to. Guess who? Yeah, it seems like there's a bit of co-op functionality here, as far as I can tell. You got a quick match, you can see what you can get. So, Gang Wars. So, this is your standard combat, as well as a couple of other things. Most of these, in fact, it seems all of this just ends up using the combat engine within the game, so there's no actual real strategy involved in it, but hey, there you go. So, the multiplayer seems like it's very much throwaway. Sandbox gives you the choice of 4 different areas to just play the game in, unscripted, and then the campaign is the main event. And this is actually completely story-driven, and you create a character in order to actually take part in that. I can show you the character creation, actually, because you can do it in Sandbox. So let me show you what's going on there. So let's just say we want to start at downtown. Name your character. Whatever. You pick his portrait out of 6, as you can see here. He's clearly the classiest looking one. And then you get to do this whole create your character by describing his backstory thing. For the most part, you're going to want to pick the ones that give you the stats that you're looking for. There are 6 different stats in the game. They each affect different things. So, as you can see, muscle for melee weapons, finesse for firearms, toughness for overall health. Smarts get to act more in battle. It is a turn-based battle system using action points. You also have a panic bar. Once your bravery goes down to 0, your character will panic, potentially run around like an idiot, and will lose movement speed and action points. And cunning actually gives you more action points and critical chance. So you can basically pick all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. There you go. And I now have a character with a cunning of 9, toughness of 8, blah, blah, blah. So you can customize your main character the way that you want. And this guy is going to be representing you within the game, and is also something that you can use to fight and do different tasks. Let's continue my single-player game. This is about 3 to 4 hours into the campaign. It's a fairly slow-running game, so this is probably about 4 or 5 missions in. I'll show you exactly what's going on with it. So occasionally, you'll be given a choice as to which missions you want to do. There used to be 2 more here in this area, but as it turns out, that is not the case anymore.
Louis Castaneda called with another of his requests. Yet another of his problems I have to take care of. Tired of acting like Louis' lapdog, but he's still the boss. At least for now. We're going to Baltic Avenue, fellas. Some small-time gangsters there have gotten a little big for their britches and challenged Louis' claim on that territory. We'll have to make them an offer they can't refuse.
It's a lot of gangster stereotype nonsense going on right here. But there you go. So, in this particular mission, I'm going to have to clean out some local gangsters at the behest of the crime lord. So, let us get involved in it and show you exactly what's going on.
Welcome to Baltic Avenue District, ragazzo. It's mine, or so everyone thinks.
Occasionally you'll get a little bit of voice acting here and there. All of your henchmen have different voices, although they don't really have a huge number of phrases. They get fairly repetitive fairly quickly. Most of the main story characters have a decent amount to say, though, and they're fairly well voice acted, if somewhat stereotypical. Okay, so first things first, establish a protection racket. So you get a hideout, which is somewhere. Where the hell's my hideout? It's probably over here. There we go. So there's the hideout. And this hideout can be decorated. There is literally no reason to do this. I wish there was kind of a benefit for it. It's just if you want to sink some money into making your house look pretty. There is absolutely no benefit whatsoever, as far as I can tell, to do that. There might be an achievement tied into it, but aside from that, it doesn't do anything. You can also upgrade your hideout 4 times. These upgrades will give you access to different buildings, so it's pretty useful to have. Now, the first thing you do when you get onto a map is actually find out what the hell's going on, so you have to go and find informants around the map, otherwise you won't know what any of these buildings do, because a lot of this stuff is very much illegitimate, a lot of it's very much undercover, so you've got to find out. You can generally do it in one of 2 ways. Either you can pay them money or you can bribe them with beer. Some of them have different requirements. Some of them you can just straight up threaten. So I'm going to send my guy to do that. And you're going to see he's going to pop outside and he's going to run there. Yeah, you don't have any control over him whatsoever here. In fact, all of this is entirely cosmetic. That's the funny thing about this game is that, you know, it's a really nice-looking game. It's got this nice-looking city with all of the old cars, the street cars and things going around the place. All the architecture's pretty good. Level of detail is, I would say, for the most part, on par with the Tropico games, but there is actually no real reason to watch it. It's mostly just window dressing because nothing actually happens here for the most part.
There's a reason why
You could have very easily just had a list of stuff, and it would have served the same purpose. But at the end of the day, there's only so far you can really go with stripping out the aesthetics of games. That tends to upset people, and yeah, you can definitely see why. Okay, looks like I can hire another gangster. I'm going to hire Walker Big Man Johnson, because I met him in my previous mission, and he's awesome, and can check what he's got. His primary weapon is a baseball bat. I can change that, but of course, it's very much tied into what he's good at already. He already has perks and talents that are related to this, so his muscle is 9, so he's going to be hitting really hard. Bats are surprisingly effective weapons in this game. You'd think, why on earth would you want a baseball bat when you can get guns? I'll explain that in a minute. And he's also got a couple of perks. He's tough, and he has brute as well, so he can do a huge amount of damage with that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to hire him. That's his daily wage. So there we go. Big Man Johnson is now on my force. I believe the total limit of gangsters you can get is probably around 6 or 7. I think it's 6. And then after that, that's pretty much the force that you've just got to deal with. Now, as you look around the city, you're going to find these different areas based on what the icons are. For instance, here, if I want to pay a fee, I can ask this guy to go and check out some houses and tell me which one's the best one to steal from. There's a lot of different places, but the ones that are most important are joints and premises. Joints can be rented, and you can do that in order to actually establish some kind of business there. Usually that's a business that sells stuff, and a premises usually produces things. So I'm looking for premises at the moment because I want to set up some form of cash flow. Generally, the best way to do that is by producing alcohol and then selling it either to existing speakeasies or via this bulletin board system right here. So I can go and say, all right, these guys are selling beer right now. I could buy it from them, or sometimes they'll actually be buying stuff. So all of these guys are currently selling. This guy needs a loan at the moment. That might be a decent way to generate some revenue. And occasionally you get special ones like the ability to increase your liked rating. Okay, so I've rented this joint. What am I going to do with it? Well, I can set up a protection racket once I get to hideout level 2. So actually, let's just go with that and go straight into what the mission's actually asking me to do.
Every dog has its day.
Okay, so the thief is now looking for a perfect place for me to steal from. And I need to keep looking around the map. That's the funny thing about this, is that you do kind of have to pay attention to the map simply because that's the way that you find out what every place on the map actually does. And there's a fairly large variety of different buildings. A lot of them you can own or rent as well. So if I want to own this warehouse, which is useful because storage is a requirement in this game, I can just rent it, assuming that I had a good relationship with them, which usually involves buying goods from them. I want to buy some guns from them, I could do that, and it kind of randomly generates what you can do there. Aside from that, the actual management aspect of the game is very much a case of owning businesses, supplying those businesses, and then selling from them. The supply chain aspect of it might disappoint a lot of you because, there we go, that looks like excellent. Looks like I can actually just lease this. I'm not really sure why I would want to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. There we go. You go deal with it.
Where's the real action?
Yeah. What else should we do? Yeah, so the management aspect of it is fairly weak. A lot of you are perhaps familiar with games like, say, The Settlers, whereby you have a lot of different businesses and a lot of different manufacturing processes. Anno is another good example of this, where you've got to do several steps in the chain in order to manufacture the end result goods. Well, you don't really have that in this game. That's not something which you can really do. Essentially, you construct a brewery, and then once you've got a speakeasy, it just generates revenue, and nothing really seems to interrupt that flow from what I've seen, unless it's a scripted event, which is a bit ridiculous. Huh. Alright. Well, we got screwed over there, so I guess we want to find the thief and then teach him a lesson. So you can establish businesses all over the city, and as a direct result, you will be able to gain revenue, as well as different resources. You can get firearms, beer and liquor are resources. You also generate dirty and clean money. Dirty money is usually a lot easier to get. Clean money, not so much, but it is used for certain purposes that you can't use dirty money for. You can use clean money for anything, but generally speaking, you wouldn't necessarily want to. Looks like there's quite a few protection rackets here. Now, because there's a lot of protection rackets around the place, my protection racket's going to be less effective once it's been set up. So I might want to do something to them. I could ambush them and actually steal their money, which will piss them off a little bit, but nothing necessarily wrong with that. Alright, now, in fact, the mission's even telling me to eliminate the independent rackets, so I'm going to start stealing from them. Now, the more crimes I commit, the more chance I'm going to have of the police getting onto me. Once heat rate reaches 5, they're going to start an investigation. That can generally be shut down in different ways. Usually just giving them money makes them go away. It's not really all that difficult. But if you fail the investigation, then your game ends. So, yeah, don't screw that up. Yes, I am well aware of the heat thing. Thank you. Go away. It's like, yes, tutorial messages, even like 4 hours into the game. There you go. Going to establish a brewery here. Now, once you've established certain businesses, you can upgrade them. And if I had some firearms, I could upgrade my feared rating here. You'll notice there's 2 ratings down at the bottom, liked and feared. These, you can actually have both of these at 100. It is possible, although certain businesses tend to push one value up and push the other value down. And these always give you benefits. There's no real reason not to be 100% feared and 100% liked, because you will make more money that way. It's really as simple as that. Now, I can increase the efficiency of my protection racket. I will lose some liked rating there, but I can easily regain it in another way. So I can have intimidation going on there, but then I could, say, set up a soup kitchen, which would increase my liked rating, and so on and so forth. You can see this is currently running at an efficiency of 130%. Regardless of the fact that I have a lot of independent protection rackets, we can definitely shut them down without too much of a problem. Now, what I would like to do is actually show you the combat system. The question is there anywhere that I can actually do that? I'd love to be able to do that. I think there is a way I can do that. So if I set up a safe house, I believe it's possible for me to actually sort out some kind of mission that I can show you. So in order to do that, I'm going to need another premises, I think. So let's go rent it. Just send one of my guys over there. He's generally the faster one. It takes some time because your guy usually runs out in that direction and takes a little bit of time to get back there. There we go. Fine. I need liked rating to do that. That's unfortunate. I don't really want to pay him 10 liquor, so I guess I can just increase my liked rating to learn that. There we go. And I think we can now establish a safe house, which will give us heist opportunities, and then I can show you the combat engine, because that's actually the main part of it. It's a weird thing, really, because it seems like the game is a management game and very much kind of a strategy. It's actually kind of not. This element is pretty basic. I'll have to force him out of there. I need to buy some firearms, actually, so I'm going to send someone out to buy some guns. I'm selling 4 firearms. I need 5. Damn it. Oh, well, never mind. So now that I've got a safe house, we can do a heist. Now, this will actually show you the combat engine. This is the main bit of the game. Even though you spend a lot of your time in the overworld element, this is the main bit of the game. So what you can do is you can set up a combat team and also a support role. In this case, I can send in 4 guys, and I can also have someone act as support. to provide. It depends on the actual battle itself. Some of them you can set up a guy as an assassin. Others you can send a crate of whiskey to get everybody drunk, and various debuffs and benefits. So who am I going to send in? Who's the best at this? I'm going to send Doc as a support. And then everyone else is going to be set up to fight. So this is my combat team. I've got a variety of different weapons. You can equip your guys with different weapons, but they don't have an inventory or anything like that. So it's kind of a basic selection of about 10 different kinds of weapons that all have different abilities attached to them.
I'm cool.
So let's get into it. All right, so for the most part, it is a turn-based strategy game. Kind of in the vein of the older school XCOM games, or something like Fallout and Fallout Tactics, or, of course, a game like the original Jagged Alliance. You move one guy at a time, you have a certain amount of movement allowance, so let's see where the enemies are. First enemy is actually right there. Enemy Gangster is right next to my guy. Yeah, this is not going to go well for you, I feel. And as you can see, I've got 3 different attacks based on the weapon that I've got. Let's say a standard hit, Skull Crush, which reduces AP by 5, very useful, and Home Run Swing. So that's actually AoE. Pretty nice. Each character also has some unlockable special abilities. You can have up to 3 in total. This guy can heal half of his health and remove negative conditions, and he gets to do that every time he kills somebody. So I'm going to take a swing at this guy. 63% hit chance. If I want, I can enhance it using aim. Considering the amount of AP that this is using, I might as well just take a good aimed swing at him. See if we can hit him, and as it turns out, we didn't. So there you go. That kind of sucks, but we're in base-to-base contact with him, so his gun is a little less effective at this range, but not by much. So he might actually end up attacking this turn. Let's see. All right, so a gangster's coming from the side and is opening fire. So the initiative order is all the way at the top here. You'll notice that my guy gets to move more than everyone else because he actually has a very high... It's either a cunning or smart rating. I can't remember which. All right, who have we got? We got a gangster over there. This guy's got a shotgun, so he actually fires a conal AoE, which is really kind of neat.
You gonna bark or bite?
All right, there's another enemy over there. It stops you every time you spot an enemy to make sure you don't run your guy into an area where you're going to get ambushed. Now, this is conal AoE. As you can see, you can aim it pretty precisely. And I've got a couple of different kinds of shots that I can do. I could just make him bleed, but considering he has pretty low HP, I could go for the kill. But no, let's go for a bleed. There we go. So there's like 95% chance of applying that, and then I'll hit him with another shot. Very, very nice weapon. You'll notice that my guy is in cover. He does gain bonuses for that. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. Sometimes you send him there and he ends up on the wrong side of the cover, or he just doesn't go into cover for some reason. I don't really know why, but that happens. I'm not going to be able to get into range of this guy, and he's probably got a gun. Yeah, he does, so I just want to try and stay in cover, and then I'll grab him next turn. This character has Knuckles as a weapon. You might think, well, that's useless. Why would you give her Knuckles? Actually, extremely effective. You can get a lot of attacks in. All of the weapons are actually pretty well balanced, surprisingly enough. And they all have a lot of different uses. Some of them inflict a lot of debuffs. Some of them are used for suppression. Some of them are used for just straight-up damage. Okay, so we have a fellow right there that actually took a shot at me. And that triggered my Vengeance passive ability, which means he's going to die horribly. There you go. Huge damage I can do with this. Didn't kill him, unfortunately, so he might end up shooting at me again. So we'll do what we can.
I'm cool.
As you can notice, characters can actually take a surprising amount of damage. You can take a good number of hits, which was odd to say the least, but that's just the way of it. Okay, we could take a big swing at him, or we can take 2 of these swings. There we go. There we go. And I ended up inflicting concussion on him as well. That's how good the bat is. Yeah, that guy's a bit of a beast, so he's pretty awesome. This combat system does remind me of those old school Fallout games, and in my opinion is the highlight of the game. It's actually very, very fun for the most part. People throwing firebombs around, good lord. It's actually great, and I was really surprised that it wasn't throwaway. It feels genuinely satisfying. I think it's mostly because of the way that you can click multiple attacks over and over again. You get this good amount of feedback on what you're doing. Okay, I can get behind cover there. I'm currently on fire, which is definitely not helpful. But what I can do is hit them both with a shot. Let's see if I can hit them with that. Can I take 2 shots with this? I think I can. There we go. So I fired 2 knockback shots there. So I knocked him back a second time. Unfortunately, didn't knock him back, which kind of sucks, but never mind. It's okay. I can punch the crap out of him with this crazy French woman that I have. All is good. Is this actually in swing range? Quite surprising. Looks like it is. All right. let's get to the punching. As you can see, it's nicely satisfying in the way that it's very, very responsive. And this character can actually move after attacking, so I can go and punch you. I could also do a leg sweep or a dirty attack, which is, of course, kick on the balls, which unfortunately failed, but never mind. So the combat system is nice. It's actually surprisingly tactical. The AI is okay. There are times when it does some really weird stuff, like just run at you and not take cover. But for the most of the time, it does pretty well for itself. And I like the way that the movement system works, because, again, it reminds me of these more old-school titles. They were more tactical. You had to manage your movement and your action points. If you move, it drains some action points as well. You have to choose between aiming and not aiming. I would have liked to see the option to, say, crouch or go prone or anything like that. You can't really do that, but I guess since you can take cover, that sort of takes that particular part of the combat system and makes it make sense. What I do like as well is that the game will tell you actively if you are about to move into someone's line of fire. If you see here, what you'll notice, that is an indicator that says, this guy can see me, and it'll even highlight him. You see the eye above his head? Same thing happens when you move into firing range. You know how good that is? That is ridiculously good. That is something that they very clearly learned from the new XCOM game that constantly screws that up. You think you've moved into range to actually attack something, and you've got line of sight, and yet the game engine says that you haven't, and it doesn't tell you until you move there. That is genius. Thank you for that. That is one of the best features I have ever seen in a game like this. It's absolutely wonderful. So, massive kudos to them for actually solving that problem. It is hugely frustrating in games like the new XCOM. Okay, let's get into punching range. There we go. Yep. You're going down. And we've got a guy with a bat over there. He's probably not going to be able to get in range. I want to put my guy behind cover. There we go. So this is the main bit of the game that's the most fun. If you're getting into the game for management, you're gonna be disappointed. If you're getting into the game thinking, oh, it's the guys that made Tropico, so they're gonna make another great management game, no, they haven't. That bit's pretty simplistic.
My turn.
The combat engine is the bit that's interesting, which is very odd, because you would have thought that that was going to be the bit that would have sucked. Turns out, no, it's not the bit that sucks, it's actually the bit that's great. Alright, yeah, you know what? Big man doesn't care. Big man gonna hit you hard in the head, and it's gonna be kind of wonderful. And we could go, let's go for an aimed skull crush there. Smack! Oh, one shot! What an absolute beast he is. Thank you for the achievement, big man. Much appreciated. So, it's like they made a game of two halves, and one half of it's really strong, and one half of it is functional but not great. If I were to improve it, I would do a lot to the management aspect of things. The supply chain is really simplistic. Like, what does it take to brew beer, for instance? Apparently nothing. You just set up a brewery and then beer appears. And that's nowhere near as fun as having to source the ingredients or things like that. Or consider the notion of the logistics of moving the stuff around, for instance. That's the kind of thing that I was really hoping that they would emulate. But they don't. They don't simulate that stuff. And that's really disappointing. I think that that's actually a missed opportunity there. Oh, he's panicked. Very nice. Yeah, big man don't care about that either. He can take many, many bullets for some ridiculous reason. But there you go. Let's take a shot at him. Probably won't be able to hit him from there. So, that's the weakest bit of the game. The question is, do you care? Like, initially I did care until I started really doing the combat and actually having a huge amount of fun with it. It's just how responsive and meaty it is, and how actually strategic it can be as well. And the way that the massive variety of weapons works is really enjoyable. I didn't expect it to be. I really didn't. I expected it to be throwaway, and it wasn't. It's actually really fun. And it's almost like they could have made the entire game this way if they'd wanted to, but they wanted to give you this running an outfit, running a gang feel. And they did, to some degree, but the strategy element is fairly shallow. It exists, I mean, to some point it exists. I mean, you get the choice of what you want to build initially, and you're obviously thinking about, how do I earn enough money here in the shortest amount of time, but usually it doesn't seem like there's ever really a good reason to earn a lot of money in a very short time because the game never really pushes you for time for the most part. The only real thing working against you is heat, yeah? When the cops actually get onto you, you want to complete things in a shorter period of time because there's less chance of that happening, and that's a drain on your finances. And it can potentially end the game, but I've never been in a situation where I've actually had to pay more than 1,000 at most for a bribe of dirty money, which is really, really easy to find. So that is a absolute non-issue. Alright, looks like there's some more money over there, so we can send Daredevil over to try and pick that up. There we go. I'm just going to burn my ability to get a little bit closer. And then we can finish off him. Got to be a little bit careful. Actually, can't see him from there. The cool thing is it'll tell you where you can go to see it. Look at this. So good. God. Guys who made this are super smart. Why couldn't Firaxis have done that? Good lord. Alright, yeah. Big man does not care for your pitiful pistols. You will not have a problem. I'll just move Squigs over in this direction.
Let me fly at them.
Quickly end the turn and grab the money bags and then move out. And we're going to finish off the last gangster here anyway, so...
Time to turn up the heat.
Because I'm just going to hit him. And he's going to go down, I would imagine. Smack. Oh, I'm going to miss him twice. Never mind. He will eventually die. Got to be a little bit careful with this shot because I might end up hitting my guy. That's entirely possible. In fact, that happens quite a lot, especially with Tommy guns. They're very inaccurate weapons. Shotguns as well. There we go. And that's the win. And I'll gain some money from that, and I could potentially get level ups from it as well. So there we go. I've got a bunch of dirty money. And then it's back to the management screen, back to the city overworld, where you're looking for different stuff and you're trying to make deals and so on and so forth. I mean, this bulletin board system is pretty functional. It's kind of buy low, sell high. It's not interesting, but at least it doesn't really take a lot of time. You can construct buildings on later levels as well, which seems like it's interesting. It just means you have access to a new set of buildings that you otherwise couldn't just straight up rent. So the really big stuff like being able to make hotels and casinos, that's where you get to do that. At this stage in the campaign, you don't get to do that, but I was mucking around with the sandbox mode to check that out. I mean, what I will say is that it's pretty nice to have this exploration aspect to the city where you don't automatically know what everything is, and occasionally you'll think of, alright, I want to take down these guys, and how do I do that? Well, you know, I need to buy some guns to make that happen. Well, actually, he's buying firearms. I guess I'll buy a few from him. I can get enough eventually. And there's also quite a lot of different missions going on. There's a lot of scripted events in the campaign. So, you know, I can go visit this guy and see what he wants, and he'll probably open up another side mission that can be done. And then eventually, once you've beaten one objective, it'll come along with a second one, and things will occasionally be thrown at you here and there. I don't think it's possible for rival gangs to invade your hideout or anything like that. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen any evidence of it, and it's not mentioned in any of the reviews. So it seems like that's the kind of thing that would enhance it. It would make it a little bit more interesting. All of the stuff of where you get attacked seems to be scripted, from what I can tell. It may be that super late on in the campaign it happens, but I haven't seen any evidence of it right now. All of that stuff is scripted. But there's a decent variety of missions going on. And you can take a lot of optional stuff like wet work for other crime lords, or you can do heists from your safe house and things like that. So overall, is it any good? Well, the management aspect of it, as I said, is pretty weak, but it's still to some degree enjoyable. It's kind of nice to set up little businesses here and there and occasionally buy upgrades and do a little bit of resource management. It's currency management for the most part, really, because that's all that really matters to you. Do you have enough money coming in, and how do you increase that amount? Supply chains, not so much of a big deal at all. So that's the kind of thing that is not going to be of interest to you if you're looking for a big management game. You know, the shallow nature of the strategic element is very disappointing, but I don't think it drags the game down that much. I think it could, potentially. If the combat wasn't any good, then this game would not be very good at all. But as it stands, the combat is good, it's a lot of fun, and it very much evokes the memories of older tactical games such as Fallout 2, Fallout Tactics, and stuff like the original XCOM games and Jagged Alliance. That I very much appreciate. I like it. I like that a lot. So overall, I'd say the package is pretty reasonable. It's a decent game, and you'll probably find that it's quite enjoyable. I'll also say that the overall theme really helps it. The soundtrack is awesome. I'll let you listen to a little bit of it.
Great.
Those clowns were no match.
A real boss ain't afraid of grunt work.
There you go. Just a little bit of the soundtrack and the music there, which is brilliant, by the way. The voice acting is all right. You know, it's pretty stereotypical. It gets very repetitive, which is unfortunate, but I do like the way that each of the characters has a certain personality. Squigs is just your kind of standard burglar, scumbag kind of dude. This is a drunk Irish doctor who is very much the medic. She is, quite frankly, an insane French aristocrat. He's just a big black dude with a baseball bat that likes smacking people, but seems to be the kind of guy that would be fun to have a drink or 10 with. Sweet. There we go. Stolen from them. And then we do a drive-by to get rid of them. Unfortunately, that isn't really anything. I don't think you even get to see that, as far as I can tell. We're going to keep an eye on it and see if they actually animated that. I don't think they did. As you can see, he's currently in the process of carrying that out. Maybe they have. Let's see how it works out. I've only really done this once or twice. Usually I just buy out a lot of the businesses. You can more often than not do that, which is pretty cool. You do have the opportunity to just buy businesses and make use of them yourself or scare them off, and that will usually attract heat and upgrade your fear rating and things like that too. So, are we getting rid of this yet? And it's just, I suppose, a shame that the city seems kind of nicely simulated, but it really is all window dressing. None of what's really happening makes much of a difference. And it could have all just been a giant list. I'm kind of glad that it wasn't, because it still adds a lot of character to the game, and because of the theme of the game, people are going to be very interested in it. It's a gangster game, and there's not a huge number of those. So, as a result, you've got to have that authenticity, and you've got to have that aesthetic, and it's got to feel immersive, and it does, for the most part. They've done a good job in that regard. It's just, I would have liked to have seen it be more. You see what I'm saying? I would have liked to see more management, more construction, but I think it's a case of expectations. What did we really expect from the game? Oh, they do it, see? There's the drive-by going on. That's pretty fantastic. There's my little guy in his car. See, that's kind of neat. Sweet. And now they have vacated the premises, as it were. So there's a nice amount of detail, but for the most part, it's non-interactive. So overall, what do I reckon to Omerta? I think it is a case of expectations. If you're looking for a hardcore management game with a lot of strategic depth, you're not going to find it. If you're looking for a fairly enjoyable story-based experience, which kind of leads you by the nose, but gives you a certain degree of freedom in terms of side missions and what businesses you want to set up, with a good combat engine behind it and a nice theme and aesthetic, then you'll probably find some enjoyment here. I've enjoyed my time with Omerta so far. It's pretty good. I think once you start digging into it, you realize that it's kind of shallow, but it's an enjoyable ride. Maybe there will be an Omerta 2 that has a much deeper strategic side of it. I hope so, because I've got a lot of good ideas here, and they're pretty well implemented. Game seems to run well. I've not run into any bugs in the, 4 or 5 hours that I've played. It's stable, it looks good, it sounds good, and overall they've made a nice product here. They have. I hope that they get the chance to make a sequel, and I hope that that sequel ends up being much deeper, because if they do, it could be a really awesome strategy game. As it stands, it is a pretty good strategy game, and it's a good time. You can pick it up for $40, £30, or €44.99 on Steam. That's a bit high. I would imagine you're probably going to find better prices on stuff like Gamers Gate for that. That's unusually high. That's actually higher in the dollar amount, so I don't really know what's going on there. Please do go and shop around. Always a good idea. Check out sites like Cheap Shark, for instance, to find a price comparison. And there we go. Omerta City of Gangsters, currently available on Steam, Gamersgate, and other popular digital distribution platforms. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.